Hey, what up guys? I'm Trevor from Trevor's Phone Reviews, and in today's tutorial we're going to show you how to record full 1080p at 60 frames per second, because some of you guys don't even know 1080p 60 exists on your phone, but this would be good for high action sports and slowing the footage down to get some really smooth slow motion. So let's roll the intro and get it started, baby. I will definitely tell you, if you're doing 1080p 60, there is no image stabilization, so it will be a little jarring and a little bit shaky, but you will get good slow motion if you want to slow the video down. So we're just going to open up the iPhone like this, and you're going to go to the settings at the top of the screen, and you're going to see it says Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and so forth. And very simple, you're going to click on the camera and photo section, and then you're going to go down where it says record. When you click here, it says record, and it's going to say record 720p HD at 120 frames a second or at 240 frames a second, which would be super slow motion. And if you want to do 1080p at 60 frames per second, you're going to do you can record video at 720p 30 frames to save memory on your phone, 1080p at 60 frames a second, or 1080p at 30 frames per second. And I will demonstrate the difference between 1080p 30 and 1080p 60 so you guys can see a difference between both files right now. So guys, we are recording at full 1080p 30 frames per second on the iPhone 6 here in my office. It's not the greatest lighting, but you are being able to see what the difference is. So we're going to do the same little pan, and I'll render it in 1080p 60 so you guys can see a difference. Usually it's a little bit more jarring, a little bit more shaky. It's not necessarily sharper, but a lot of people use 1080p at 60 frames per second for high action sports. So now we're outdoors shooting full 1080p at 60 frames per second here in Florida. And now we're shooting in at full 1080p at 30 frames per second here in Florida. So you're being able to see a difference between the image stabilization on and the image stabilization off. I think the image stabilization on looks a little bit nicer than what you get with the full 1080p 60 frames per second, because 1080p 60 frames per second is more shaky, no image stabilization, and also is good for slowing down slow motion. But because the iPhone 6 has already a slow motion feature, you don't really need 1080p at 60 frames per second. So remember guys, as always, to rate even if you hate, comment and subscribe. Smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, and it definitely helps out the channel, man. And that's how you record 720p at 30 frames per second, 1080p at 30 frames per second, and also 1080p at 60 frames per second, which is really great if you want to slow down your video in 1080p 60. It's going to give you that little bit of like a slow motion cinematic look if you're doing like a high action sports, but you're not going to have the image stabilization. So you go down to the settings, click photo and video, and then you scroll all the way to the bottom, and it'll let you record at 1080p 60 or 1080p 30. So as always, just remember, if you're doing 1080p 60, you don't get no image stabilization, and the file size will be bigger, but it doesn't necessarily mean your video is going to be sharper or nicer because you're doing 1080p 60. But I'm Trevor. I'm here to help you guys out, here to help you guys with learning your devices, your technology. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one coming very soon. That's how you record 1080p 60 on an iPhone 6.